A sponsor of Central Indiana Today is Five Stones Marketing. They specialize in website conversion to mobile-friendly formats, direct mailing, and promotional items. Their website is fivestonesmarketing.com. Their phone number is 317-344-9296.
I'm Dr. Jason Welsh of Indianapolis Sport and Spine. We're located at 1460 North Green Street in Brownsburg. Indy Sport and Spine provides chiropractic sports medicine, rehab, and massage therapy. Our website is indysportandspine.com, which provides further information and office hours. Indy Sport and Spine can be reached at 852-2005.
This is Central Indiana Today with your host, Rob Kendall.
Hendricks County's hometown radio voice, 98.9 WYRZ. I'm Rob Kendall, the host of the show. This is Central Indiana Today, and on the program, we are going to talk third parties in the state of Indiana. You got your Democrats, you got your Republicans, and one of the up-and-coming parties, or a party on the rise based on recent elections, is the Libertarian Party. So we'll talk a little bit about them and about why people are maybe drifting towards third parties. And I could think of no one better to advise us on third parties than my dear friend, Chris Spangle. Chris, the former executive director of the Libertarian Party. They had great success. No thanks to Chris, but they did have great success.
Is this how this is going to go?
This is how we do this. And Chris, also the host of the We Are Libertarians podcast. Christopher, hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So explain to us what an executive director, first of all, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green Party, if you're an executive director for a state party, what do they do?
So my job was everything.
Okay, all right.
Now, if you're in the Republican Party here in Indiana, you've got a fundraising staff, you've got grassroots organizing, you've got a staff that does that, staff that assists candidates, staff that assists county parties, and then you've got the executive staff, which helps guide the party, because there's so many different levels of political work.
This is like a giant corporation.
Exactly right. For both parties, the Democratic Party here in Indiana is kind of sparse. I think they, at most, had 3 or 4 in the time that I was executive director. I did all of that. So I was in charge of the fundraising for the party to make sure that continued to get paid, and that we could continue to build resources. I was in charge of building county parties, recruiting candidates, training those candidates, training those county party leaders, training volunteers, connecting volunteers with their local party. And it was a very big job, and it was a lot of fun, connecting with thousands of people across the state.
So you are like that episode of Family Guy when Stewie starts that business, and it's Stewie and Brian. And,
yes.
So
only there was no Brian.
There was just Stewie. So how did you get involved in politics? And then I guess I'll expand on that. How did you become a third party, a libertarian person?
Yeah, so I grew up wanting to get into radio. I'm from Plainfield, and
as Brownsburg person, I will not hold that against you.
Yeah, it's okay. I know, even though on the map we're below you, we're still above you. Now, don't tick me off for the Fighting Quakers, okay? We will. So I used to drive up and down the drag here in Brownsburg, visiting my aunt and uncle actually live here in town. And I used to drive by the former radio station and say, gee, how do I break in there? So it's an honor to be here today.
Oh, well, we're glad.
My career has come full circle.
We're glad we could make that happen for you.
And so I ended up getting a job at WXNT with Abdul over on News Talk 1430 in 2004. And got into political talk radio and was a reporter of sorts. If you talk to Abdul, was pretty terrible as a reporter and as a producer. I'm not going to argue any of that. But I became a libertarian through that time, and Abdul really challenged my beliefs, and I was a diehard Republican. And
In fact, you were like a delegate to this Republican convention.
yeah, the only election I will ever have served in
Yeah, and-
in my lifetime was delegate race for delegate, and I won 9 out of 12 spots. I was 9th.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, and the way it works with delegate, it doesn't matter whether you're first or 12th. You're in, baby.
Right.
Everyone has to be nice to you.
Now, I went, and it was kind of disillusioning, to be honest. But we can talk about. Let's talk about the Libertarians, not the problem with the Republicans. But I don't want to have to fist fight you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So you kind of get disaffectionate,
Disenfranchised from the Republicans. So I go into the job as Abdul's morning show producer in 2007 as a very politically homeless person. And I have all my beliefs challenged by Abdul working there. And I go back and listen to some of the tapes, and I'm just a complete moron in the things that I say.
So he would like talk to you?
He would talk to me.
Because that was after I was because Abdul started when I was producer for the Indians over at XNT. But
Okay.
this was later.
Yes.
This was after the
2008.
fact. Yeah.
So I saw Ron Paul in the 2008 debates, sort of became enfranchised with Ron Paul.
You got dreamy-eyed
I got
over,
I got a little enchanted. His little eyes with his
because I feel like
loud, shrill voice.
you don't actually get excited about much.
No.
So the thoughts of seeing you thrilled about anything is intriguing to me.
Yeah, no, I get excited by women. I get excited by my job, and I get excited by Ron Paul.
Yeah, okay.
Very small
Hey, very good.
group.
And you know,
And
oddly,
pudding.
and-
I
and
love
yes.
pudding.
And I was going to say, oddly enough, my 3 that I would list are not that far off. I might now insert Donald Trump for Ron Paul. But,
Okay.
But other than that, so you're doing the Abdul thing. He's letting you on the air. He's bantering
Right.
with you. You're starting to feel like maybe your whole life was a lie, and maybe
Right.
you're like the Caitlyn Jenner of politics.
Totally.
Okay.
And so we had these events called Cocktails and Conversation, and libertarians would always show up to these events. And I started talking to them, and I would just say, I have become a libertarian. I'd like to get involved or see you do well. What is the problem here? They said, well, we don't have paid staff at the moment. And they hadn't had paid staff at the Libertarian Party of Indiana for 2 years. And I said, you can make me an offer. I promise you can beat what I'm making at the radio station, because it was abysmal. I won't embarrass Intercom like that. But let's
Shabazz
just say,
did Shabazz not go to bat for you and say, hey, we got to give this guy a few extra,
see
Lincolns?
the thing about Abdul in that time period is that Abdul liked to pretend that he was in charge, but he really had no power there. So I went on to work for the Libertarian Party for the next 4 years.
So this is like 08?
This was 08. I started 2 weeks before the 08 election for the
Okay.
Libertarians, and jumped right in. And it was a really tough job for 4 years. It was it really grew me as a person. I grew the party, made a ton of friends, a ton of lifelong connections that I just love and appreciate, and really steeped me in both how government works, how politics works, how to get people elected, how not to get people elected. I did a lot of that research.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you did a lot of not getting people elected.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm an expert at that. If you're a libertarian, you're really good at losing. But it's starting to turn around. It's from where I was in 08 and where I am now. Both personally, I have seen a large growth in my libertarianism, and the government. The Republicans and the Democrats are the best recruiters for libertarians. And I've also seen the word libertarian become mainstream. I have seen it become, it's starting to become a force in American politics, and it really started to happen around 09 and 10, and it's really just accelerated. And I think it's one of the best times for libertarians ever.
Again, our guest is Chris Spangle. He is the former executive director of the Indiana Libertarian Party. We are talking about third parties today. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is, one, I love libertarians.
Sure.
And two, you had me on your We Are Libertarians podcast, which everybody can hear and enjoy.
At wearelibertarians.com.
It was great. We get into a lot of things we won't get into here. You have sort of a free flow form show.
I know this is a very professional.
Yeah.
I'm intimidated.
Yeah, it's I'm very well organized.
Surprisingly.
At council meetings and radio shows. My life is total chaos other than at radio shows and council meetings.
We get into that.
But I think this, as you said, is a party on the rise. There are more people flocking to third parties, not just libertarians, but third parties. You see somebody who is an independent, an admitted socialist in Bernie Sanders, who is leading or near the lead in the Democrat field. By the way, you hate Sanders, don't you?
I don't hate anybody. I think
you meme Sanders all the time.
Oh, because he's a joke. He's to be laughed at, right? He's not only is he a disingenuous person if you look at his history. He is also someone who is saying things that are not economically possible. He is somebody that connects with people on an emotional level, and that's why they like him. But if you really get down to his policies, they just are never going to work in the realm of economics. They're never going to work in the realm of politics. And he doesn't have, and as much as I love Ron Paul, to get a lot of what Ron Paul wanted to get done, would have had to become almost a darn near dictator with a ton of executive orders to get what he wanted to get done. So that's why I'm more of an incrementalist. I think I'm a destination libertarian. This is the direction we're moving, or I'm a directional libertarian, and this is the destination that I want, but we're going to have to inch it back to this place. As opposed to a destination libertarian where this is what it is, and I'm not going to accept anything less.
So the reason I wanted to have you on is I feel like there is nationally, and even in the state of Indiana, a huge rise of the libertarians. We'll talk about that in just a moment because you guys had some great success in 2012. But I also feel like here in Hendricks County, and we talked about this on the We Are Libertarians podcast, we had a libertarian run for county council in 2014.
Sure.
Mr. Michael Dowden, who is a big fan of yours and big fan of We Are Libertarians.
He's a wonderful, smart, beautiful man, and I hope to meet him one day.
And I'm sure that would just make him great. We talk about you often when we discuss things. And Michael did very, very well for a libertarian, shocking in Republican-based Hendricks County, and it got me thinking that there are these people who are reaching out. And we talked about on the We Are Libertarians podcast. I always try to vote for one libertarian in every cycle, and I wanted to get maybe a feeling for someone who had success and was a part of that growth, why people are flocking to third party. So if you were to sum up in a couple bullet points why you think people now are beginning to drift towards or be more at least open to the idea of voting for a third party, what would it be?
Well, there's the pragmatic voter, and then there's the philosophical voter. So if you look at the libertarian philosophy, it's basically both politically and philosophically, because you can be a libertarian and be in any party or no party. It's a philosophy. And then there is the Libertarian Party. So there are libertarians in the Republican and Democratic parties, and then there are libertarians in the Libertarian Party, and then there are people who are just not affiliated with a party. Now, libertarianism is essentially on issues, conservative on fiscal issues and liberal on social issues. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the right of the individual to govern themselves, and that government inherently is force, and that the government forces...
Now, you are speaking to a government official, so be very careful.
I know, and you forced me onto this podcast. See what kind of abuse at the hands, sic semper tyrannis. It's terrible what these government officials do. They make you drive out to Brownsburg, eat Burger King in a parking lot because there's no catering services. You didn't get my writer, did you? So
I tried to get the town hall sign to flash "Welcome Chris Spangle," but I wasn't able to pull it off in time.
I know, they said who, and so
I mean, you
philosophically,
were supposed to be here at 1, so I think like right about now it is starting to do that. Since you got here early,
I'll Snapchat and drive and get a photo of it on the way out. And if I get a ticket, I know who to call.
Right, absolutely.
Now, we believe in the rights of the individual to govern themselves because we as individuals know what is best for ourselves. And it is completely ridiculous that a community like Brownsburg would have their education planned by 535 old people who just are basically spending their day raising money to get reelected and maintain power. Those people don't know what's best for Brownsburg.
You are referring to the U.S. Congress, House and Senate.
Exactly right. Between Congress and the president and then all of the special interests that buy those people, they're the ones who are making decisions for a community like Brownsburg and what is best in their education, what is best in their tax policy and their highway system. Every single item that is on... look to your left, look to your right, look in front of you, look down, look up. Every single item that you see has been touched by government and by some regulation, some tax, and some sort of manipulation. So a special interest goes to a congressman, pays them off, and says, "Hey, this is our personal preference. Force everyone to tilt the favor in favor of our business or in favor of our special interest group. For instance, Christian conservatives or Planned Parenthood or the NRA or No Moms Against Guns, for left or right." So so philosophically, we think all of that is wrong because the people of Brownsburg are the smartest people to make decisions in the community of Brownsburg.
Some.
No, I don't. I disagree with that because the people who say that people that vote are dumb have failed to realize that we have given up so much of our own power as individuals to these people in Washington D.C. and Indianapolis and to the city council itself and these governing bodies that we no longer feel responsible for making our own decisions because somebody else will take care of it. And so what you end up with is a lazy, uneducated populace because they no longer have to think for themselves. And the state wants to control how people think, so then they don't think, oh, well, maybe there's a problem here. So it just philosophically, we think that you, as are a smart, intelligent person who can make your best decisions. Politically, libertarians think that all of the decision-making process that I mentioned, the special interests, the politicians that are holding on to maintain power and fundraise as opposed to making good policy, that's an inherently poor decision-making system. That is a system that does not make the best decisions for us as individuals. It makes the best decisions to keep the bureaucracy and the political power that they hold in place. So one of the reasons that we as libertarians oftentimes don't see a lot of electoral success in third parties is because Republicans and Democrats across this country have been able to write their own election laws and gerrymander districts. At one point, the 4th District was from Terre Haute down to Evansville. You could drive from my house to Milwaukee, and it'd be closer than it was to the end of the 4th District. It was crazy. So we have allowed Republicans and Democrats to write essentially the antitrust laws to keep third parties out. So RC Cola has no chance against Pepsi and Coke because they've bought off so many politicians at the state and local level.
So again, the voice you're hearing, Chris Spangle, he's the former executive director for the Libertarian Party in the state of Indiana. Also, host of the We Are Libertarians podcast. We're talking about third parties today and why people are beginning to maybe pay more attention. The proof is always in the election results, and the Libertarians did really well in 2012. Your last hurrah. And right. This is where I first sort of got to know you. You were a guy, by the way, I want to congratulate you. You are a much heavier man than you are now.
I was. I've lost 60 pounds.
You are skinny Spangle with your Fitbit on.
Thanks, Fitbit and MyFitnessPal.
And you were walking around in a tie-dye T-shirt
right.
With Rupert, who was the nominee for governor at the time for the Libertarians.
Correct.
And what percentage of the vote did Rupert end up with?
4%. So he doubled the percentage that Andy Horning had done in 2008.
Yeah, and Andy will probably listen to this. So Andy, I love you, but sometimes you're crazy.
No, he's not crazy at all. No, that's unfair. Andy is a very intelligent. He says the same thing over and over and over, but that's because none of you people are listening yet.
So Rupert doubles the Libertarian, and Andy is a brilliant guy, by the way. I want to clarify that. Andy's a very good guy, and we banter on Facebook, and good times. So Rupert doubles the vote of the previous candidate. Probably that's by far the most a Libertarian candidate for governor has had in the state.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I thought this was for two reasons, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You know this better than I do. You know politics better than I do. One is you had a well-known candidate, even though he wasn't known for politics. Mm-hmm. And two, you had a candidate that talked a lot about issues that resonated with people.
Completely.
How were you able, or did you have to steer Rupert towards that, or was that just a natural instinct for Rupert?
No, Rupert is the most genuine person I've ever met on the planet. Like, he has this celebrities and people that you see that are celebrities and then people of note in the media, people like Rob Kendall,
Yes.
are exactly like
Am I a celebrity or a person of note?
person of note.
Okay.
There are one day you'll be a celebrity like Rupert, but until then,
And I could get 4%.
keep eating bugs. But no, like you think that they're exactly like you think they are, and Rupert is exactly like you think he is. He's just one of the most decent, honest, straightforward guys. He is not a political guy. He just is a guy who has spent 30 years working within a system that is a little bit about Rupert. I mean, he's known for the Survivor thing, but he spent 30 years running a charity, or maybe it's 20 years, running a charity called Rupert's Kids, and before that, Kids Hope, where he would take kids out of the criminal justice system that grew up in really terrible homes and turned to a life of crime. And then Rupert's Kids is their last stop, and he's now in Shelbyville, kind of reforming their system. And he takes these kids who have a criminal justice record, teaches them life skills. And these are kids who don't know what a fresh ID card is. They don't know how to balance a bank account. They don't know how to go to school. They don't have their GEDs. They don't know how life works. And he teaches these kids how to reform their own lives, empower them, teach them self-worth, teach them skills, all while doing community redevelopment. Because in Shelbyville's mayor and city council are turning over homes that are delisted, not making money on the tax rolls, and turning them over to Rupert's Kids, and he's rehabbing houses and buildings with local offenders, giving them a future, beautifying the city, and it's costing the city like nothing. It's just benefiting everybody. So here's a guy who has walked the walk, talked the talk, but he's not a politician. So we did struggle to kind of teach Rupert the fundamentals of politics, and we expect our politicians to be perfect and know everything, which is totally inauthentic and unrealistic.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and
the people of Brownsburg are very lucky, aren't they?
Right, I know, to have someone like you who knows everything. But it's just totally inauthentic and unrealistic for us to sit there and think that this politician is going to be an expert on everything. So, you know, we had a few dings and mishaps and occasional like uh-ohs when Rupert would go off script, but you know, his philosophy is intact.
So 2 questions I've always wondered about Rupert. First one is, did you recruit Rupert or did he come to you guys?
He came to us.
Oh, really?
So he, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this publicly, but
so this could be breaking news, because I always have to have some reason to hype the show.
Yeah, no, the
breaking news.
How Rupert became a Libertarian. So Rupert was a Libertarian for a long time and became disillusioned with Barack Obama. He was actually in the Democratic Party and had all these libertarian beliefs personally, but politically, because he's an empathetic guy, he always kind of sided with Democrats. And he just got so fed up with the local city government of Indianapolis and the new mayor and how poorly they were managing several things that touched his business. He had a run-in with the state IRS that affected his business in a very negative way. And then Barack Obama had made him kind of disillusioned because here was this hope and change guy and he didn't change anything. And so he started looking for a libertarian option. He somehow found the world's smallest political quiz online at theadvocates.org, took it, and it said, you're a libertarian. And so he contacted...
and that's your deal, right? The smallest political quiz?
I was the marketing director for the Advocates for a year after I left the LPIN before I went to my current job.
So think about you made Rupert.
No, I didn't make a Rupert. I wasn't working for them at the time. But so he took the quiz, and he found out that he was a libertarian, and he contacted Mark Rutherford, a local attorney in town. I had never heard of Rupert. I did not know that he lived in town. I kind of knew of this guy who was on Survivor that wore tie-dye and was a nice guy. But I didn't know he lived in town. I'd never met him. I had when Mark said Rupert wants to talk about running for governor in 2010, I said, that's ridiculous. We're not running Snooki for governor. Because he was just a reality TV show guy. And I went and we met with him for 3 hours, and I was blown away by the guy.
Really?
Here's a guy who's sitting in a dirty, grungy, tie-dye tank top, these awful cargo shorts. He's all like hairy and gross, and because he'd been out working with his kids mowing lawns. And before he left, he just told us all about his life story. He's a guy who lives the libertarian philosophy, and it just was kind of a no-brainer. But it was really tough to get him through. I mean, it wasn't until it was a couple years later. We don't have primaries; we have nominating conventions, and it was kind of touch and go. I mean, we had to go to every county party. Libertarians, for whatever reason, have to meet the candidate that they're going to vote for. And if they don't meet them, then, well, he's just not down with the cause.
Right.
And so, but he won overwhelmingly at our state convention that year.
So the second question I have, and this is a funny question, but somewhat serious, because I thought this, because I was obviously, I was the enemy for you that year. I was working for the current governor.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sorry, we cost you the governor's mansion.
And as Rupert and I talk regularly, and he and I joked last week, it's like, oh great, it's just Pence and Greg again, a repeat, just what we all need.
It's just like Rocky 2.
So he and I joked about him putting his name on the ballot and running again, but we meaning Laura, his wife, decided against that.
So did you, and this is a serious question, a funny question, but I thought it would have helped him, and I talked to several other people who thought it would have too. It was probably a double-edged sword. Did you talk to him ever about shaving the beard and cutting his hair?
Oh, God, no.
No, so there was never any people that would know this guy, might see him, and they see him, and if he looks a little bit more professional, they might be more apt to vote for him?
Those people are idiots, and if you're one of those people who thought that, you're an idiot, okay, and you're part of the problem. And let me explain why you're an idiot. Rupert is who Rupert is. And Rupert is a genuine human being, and this is how Rupert looks, and this is what Rupert... And also, it's a multi-million-dollar brand that he has built on that look. So why would we... When name ID is key in politics, why would you get rid of the thing that helps you with name ID? But we did trim. We did... if you look at the course of Rupert over the campaign, he loses a ton of weight, because none of us were eating. And we also he'd go and get his hair cut, his beard trimmed, and just a little bit at a time. And if you look at him by election day, it's very tight, and his hair is shorter compared to like now. It's just real bushy again. But the problem...
So there was never any thought of, we're going to try to go a little bit mainstream with this guy because of name ID, and maybe we win 7-8% of the vote.
We put him in a polo shirt for his first event, and by we, I mean his campaign manager. I'm not taking the hit on this. I put him in a polo shirt and not tie-dye. There was no tie-dye. And the whole event, he couldn't talk about his message because people were asking where his tie-dye was, because it's so essential to who he is. And here's why that's part of the problem. A person like Donald Trump and a person like Bernie Sanders resonate with voters because they seem authentic. They seem like they are telling the truth. Now, I think they both have personally,
be careful.
I think they both have a lot of mental illness that they have not dealt with. They're not authentic. They're crazy. If you look up histrionic personality disorder, that is Donald Trump in a nutshell. I'm sorry, Rob. But... I was really hoping my Make America Great Again hat would have arrived in time for this interview. I'm really upset that didn't happen either. But I don't know why. We all say we want this authentic politician, but then we want him to shave the beard. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can have somebody be who they are and tell you exactly who they are and be courageous with the truth, or you can have the inside-the-box politician that continues to lie to you.
So, again, our guest is Chris Spangle. He's the former executive director of the Indiana Libertarian Party. We're talking about third parties and why they're on the rise here in not just Hendricks County, but the state of Indiana. 2012, you also did very well in the U.S. Senate race. Your nominee was...
Andy Horning.
Yeah, he's like your go-to guy. If no one else wants to raise their hand, you go to Horning. You interested in running
No,
again?
it's there is some recruitment, but a lot of it is...
Is Horning like,
people...
pick me?
No, not at all. Andy is a guy who has spent years working on his message, refining his message, is a very likable guy, a person that many people around the state identify. Andy was a huge influence on me becoming a libertarian. He would guest host for Abdul. I spent a lot of time talking to Andy. I helped on his 2004 campaign when he ran as a Republican here locally against Julia Carson. No, Andy, he puts his hat in the ring, and people in the party have a lot of respect for Andy, and he resonates with people, and why wouldn't you want a guy like that on top of your ticket?
So what he ended up with, 7-8% of the vote?
He got the most votes, I think, in the history of any Libertarian candidate.
Do you give credit to that to Murdoch being an idiot, or did Horning actually do a good job?
I think there is... I think there are a lot of Lugar Republicans from the beginning that were not going to vote for Richard Murdoch.
And you probably kind of like Murdoch, right? I mean, he's constitutional, no?
No, he is, I mean, as a man, he is a very nice person, and he has spoken to Libertarian Party groups. I've met with him several times. Very nice guy. His campaign manager...
I I've heard a
help
lot of people did not like
shoot
the
him in
campaign
the
manager.
foot.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people. Abdul too did not. I don't think necessarily care for the
No, I
campaign
mean
manager.
I can point out specific lies, and I think there were a lot of Lugar Republicans who were looking for an alternative, and we gave them a conservative choice, and somebody who was somebody that a lot of Republicans can look at and say, I'd vote for that guy. And there were a lot of the general public that had the same reaction to Murdoch after his abortion comments.
So I was going to ask you, if Murdoch doesn't make those comments, is he the U.S. Senator right now, or was Horning that influential?
Oh, I think Murdoch lost the election for himself. I don't buy into libertarians spoiling elections. That's bullcrap, and that is a tool that the two parties use to strike fear into the heart of voters who might want to make an alternative choice. And the truth is, if you look at exit polling from CNN in 2010 with Rebecca St. Burris and who are the Brad Ellsworth and Dan Coates, it confirmed what I have always known anecdotally, is that libertarians poll 1/3 from Republicans, 1/3 from Democrats, and 1/3 of politically homeless people who just are not going to vote for any party or who are new political neophytes. And like I said, Rupert earlier was a disillusioned Democrat, and Andy is a disillusioned Republican, and they were at the top of the ticket in 2012.
That I would like to close with this, because I hope you're going to give me the answer on it. Were you there when Murdoch did the thing?
I did not make that event.
How did you miss that? You're the executive director for the state party.
I had to
Did they not give libertarians tickets to these things?
No, I had to go down to Jeffersonville for a county organization meeting, so I missed it.
So how did you hear about this?
I was listening to the debate as I was driving home on another radio station.
Because we talked with Abdul about this a couple weeks ago. Did you catch it when he did it?
Uh-huh.
Did you pull over to the side of the road? Did you do a happy dance?
I pumped my fists. I literally, my mouth hung open, and I said, oh, he did not. He is so screwed. And it was bigger. It ended up being bigger than I thought it was going to be. And it, Andy got a lot of bonus points because Andy was who Andy is and said, you know what? I like Richard Murdoch. Richard Murdoch said a dumb thing that he probably wishes he could take back. It was a mistake. You shouldn't judge him on one mistaken, out of context comment. And if you want to vote for me because you think I'm the best choice. And if you want to vote for Richard Murdoch, look at the entirety of his campaign statements, and not just one line. And that earned a lot of respect from a lot of Republicans.
Okay, Andy was being nice, but you're the executive director. Do you call Andy and go,
Not at all.
No, you didn't talk to him?
No.
You didn't say, did you catch that too? I mean...
Oh, no. No, I had a very hands-off approach in a lot of ways. I mean, my job was support. It was not to direct.
Tie-dye shirt. You were tie-dye shirt man.
I my theory when I governed the political party was candidates and individuals know what's best for their campaigns. This is what we believe. Let's put it into action. And it worked in a lot of ways.
Okay, so let's wrap with this, because I think libertarians, we talked about this on your podcast, I think Republicans can learn a lot from libertarians. I think their outreach to libertarians has been awful. I think the Republicans have been a large cry of why there are libertarians, same way as you said, Democrats are a reason there are libertarians. Let's say Rob Kendall decides in a few years he's going to run for another office again.
Mm-hmm.
You're Spangle. I reach out to you, say you're the guru. First of all, am I the sort of guy you would consider running my campaign?
No, and it's not because of you. It's because I never want to have to do that again.
Oh, you're done.
I'm done.
Okay.
I at least at this point in my life, even 2 years out, I'm still burnt out from politics.
Okay, so let's say you did. Now,
Okay.
I'm crushed because that was my whole strategy.
Okay.
But let's just say you
We'll
did.
talk in 2 years. Maybe it'll be different.
Okay, I'm going to back a large briefcase full of cash up
Okay,
to the
now I'm in.
Spangle estate. Okay, do you let me, because we follow each other on social media, we have fun, we're real dudes, we say things that make people cringe,
Right.
We're honest about who we are, we're just a couple of wild and crazy guys.
Right.
Candidate Rob, do you let me be Rob, or do you say you're running a Republican primary, we got to doll you up a little bit?
I say
Because I get both sides from people that say you're wonderful what you do, you got to be more politically correct.
This is not just a political conundrum. This is a life conundrum. Do I be myself and be authentic and be who I truly am and hope that people will just accept me for me, or do I present the fake and phony polished up version of what I think everybody wants. And I have lived in both camps in my life, and I can tell you that I am a more successful human being at every single level in every area of my life when I live authentically. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. If you've never heard of that, go look it up. I think
Is that a philosopher?
it is she's a licensed social worker who has written a book on authenticity, the gifts of imperfection, a few other things.
You know how I feel about reading.
Vulnerability. She's got a great TED Talk. You can watch it on YouTube's. And I just think as what people are yearning for in this society is authenticity. They want to know who the true Rob Kendall is. And if you are a guy who is a bachelor who goes out and you have a few drinks and then you have a few girlfriends, I don't know if that's the case or not. I mean, it's the backwards hat that's giving me that impression, and the butler thing. But no, I think you should say exactly what you think at all times. And if people have a problem with that, they have the problem with it, not you. And you should not change yourself to make other people like you, because then you lose yourself in the process, and you lose your core identity. And you become unsuccessful in life, and you become unsuccessful in politics. And that's why people love Ron Paul. That's why they don't like Rand Paul. Ron Paul is an authentic person who says, I'm going to speak my mind and say what I think, and you all can like it or not. And Rand Paul wants to be wishy-washy and try and get into every club he possibly can by saying what he thinks they want to hear. And so Ron Paul has this amazing groundswell that lights a brush fire of liberty across the nation. And Rand Paul is going to go back into the Senate and sit there for the next 30 years. And, well, he'll probably get primaried at some point because he's pleasing no one. So I think Rob Kendall should be Rob Kendall, even though that is a hideous idea.
Chris, you are a wonderful human being. Before I let you go, where can people hear the We Are Libertarians podcast?
WeareLibertarians.com, and check us out on iTunes.
It is a wonderful program. I try to listen when possible. Occasionally, they let me participate in the show, and you guys are great.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Hey, don't forget, if you missed any part of our interview with former executive director for the Libertarian Party, Chris Spangle, you can check out the podcast anytime you want at the website, wyrz.org. Until next time, I'm Rob Kendall saying, have yourself a great evening.
You've been listening to Central Indiana Today with your host, Rob Kendall.
A sponsor of Central Indiana Today is Five Stones Marketing. They specialize in website conversion to mobile-friendly formats, direct mailing, and promotional items. Their website is fivestonesmarketing.com. Their phone number is 317-344-9296.
I'm Dr. Jason Welsh of Indianapolis Sport and Spine. We're located at 1460 North Green Street in Brownsburg. Indy Sport and Spine provides chiropractic sports medicine, rehab, and massage therapy. Our website is indysportandspine.com, which provides further information and office hours. Indy Sport and Spine can be reached at 852-2005.